Welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. Big news in the world of sports. Major League Baseball has lifted its ban on Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson. Of course, Pete Rose played for the Reds. Shoeless Joe Jackson was part of the Chicago White Sox team that goes down in history as the Chicago Black Sox for the 1919 World Series scandal versus the Reds. And you know who's playing each other today in Major League Baseball? Of course, the Reds are hosting the White Sox. We're going to put this all together. We're going to see where it fits in with Trump's March 1st remarks about how he wanted to lift the ban on Pete Rose. Of course, Trump's number 47 right now. Today's the 47th day of the Reds and White Sox season. We're going to go back and look at the death of Ray Liotta, who performed as Shoeless Joe Jackson in Field of Dreams. You might recall Ray Liotta died the day of the Field of Dreams game where the Reds blew out the other Chicago team, the Cubs, 20-5. And of course, in Gematria, Shoeless Joe Jackson equals 205. And here we are in 2025, 225 days after the death of Pete Rose. Don't forget, Pete Rose died on the last day of last year's MLB regular season, where the last game was in Atlanta, Georgia. And once upon a time, Pete Rose had a 44-game hit streak end in Georgia. We call Georgia the 44 state because Georgia equals 44. It's also the fourth state in order of statehood. But it says Pete Rose is finally out of MLB's doghouse, and he has some company. Along with him, they have lifted the ban on Shoeless Joe Jackson. And what's interesting is Shoeless Joe Jackson died 73 years ago, and today's 73 days after Trump said he would like to lift the ban on Pete Rose. So, hold on, sweet girl. We'll be done here in just a second. Sweet girl likes to keep it moving. Again, this is the game later today. Starts in about 9 minutes out here on the West Coast. That's a 3:40 West Coast start time. Again, I'm on the West Coast, so the timestamps are for that. The 1919 scandal is funny because in Gematria, Reds equates to 19. And are the White Sox going to end up getting their 19th road loss in this series? I'd say that's pretty likely. But look at this. That team that Shoeless Joe Jackson played for was known as the Chicago Black Sox for the scandal. Today is the 133rd day of the year. Chicago Black Sox, 133. Trump, on March 1st, the date can be written 1/3, like today's the 13th, said he would like to lift the ban on Pete Rose. Again, president, White House, government, they all equal 133. Remember, Pete Rose just defeated the black woman, at least she said she was black, who had her DNC in Chicago, and she spoke there on the anniversary of the death of Huey P. Newton, the founder of the Black Panther Party, at age 47. Of course, her father was friends with Huey P. Newton. Shoeless Joe Jackson died December 5th, 1951. He was born July 16th, 1887. From his death anniversary to this ban being lifted today, which was hinted at by Trump, is 159 days later. Notice Donald Trump equals 159. From his last birthday anniversary to today is exactly 43 weeks. Hall of Fame equates to 43. And if you run it in reverse, Hall of Fame is 47, like it's the 47th day of both teams' season. Again, if you're new here, Gematria is the Kabbalistic practice coding numbers into words. It's as elementary as ABC is 1, 2, 3. It's based on the alphabetic order forwards and backwards with numerology applied. You want to know all four ciphers. Again, I learned about this in a 1926 book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, a book almost as old as the Black Sox scandal. But notice, Hall of Fame equals 47, like president, like White House, like government, like authority, like Republican, like Democrat, like the name Trump. Even the letters DC in reverse are 47. Every year I'm showing how sports is synced up with the Oval Office. Pete Rose and Joe Jackson both equal 103, like Scottish, as in the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. Also 103, like Jesuits, the Jesuit Masonic Alliance. And notice, again, Ray Liotta, who played Shoeless Joe Jackson. I just want to go back to the day he died at 67, a fateful number. He died 83 days from his big co-stars, birthday. 83 days from his 79th birthday. I'm talking about Robert De Niro. Big murder numbers, both in Goodfellas. But this is the big one right here. The day he died, again, he played Shoeless Joe Jackson, who got beat by the Reds with the other Chicago team. Shoeless Joe Jackson, 205. And this was the Field of Dreams game that year, just like Ray Liotta played Shoeless Joe Jackson in Field of Dreams. 20-5 is such a rare score for baseball. Again, to match the Gematria Shoeless Joe Jackson, but think about how many runs there were, 25. And now here we are in 2025, and this happens the day the Reds are playing the White Sox. And notice the address of the Hall of Fame at Cooperstown. The building number is 25. 25 Main Street, Cooperstown. So what a ritual for 2025. And when Pete Rose died, ESPN put out an image of him standing in front of Steve Garvey, who was running for election in California as a senator to replace Dianne Feinstein's seat. He died 83 days before Steve Garvey's birthday. Remember, murder equals 83, so does election. The song Murder by Numbers by the Police is about how killing is the sport of the elected. And Pete Rose dies on the last day of the MLB season, where the last game was in Georgia, where his hit streak ended. And remember, last year there was a big gambling scandal with Ohtani. The story came 193 days. Pete Rose's death story came 193 days after AP reported on Ohtani's gambling scandal. 193 is the 44th prime. Georgia's 44, like kill, like execution. Again, the Pete Rose hit streak ended at 44 games in Georgia. Shohei Ohtani's also 193. Dodgers went on to win the World Series last year. So, yeah, there was a few more elements to it. You can come back and read these old pieces, but I know Sweet Girl's going to want me to wrap up here any second, so we'll leave it there for now, Truth Seeker. Another Major League ritual with Major League Baseball, and they really do make these things obvious. It's almost like they want the fans to realize what a script it is. So if you couldn't figure it out yourself, that's what we're here to help out with. And the Gematria adds a whole lot to seeing through it all. So we'll leave it there for now. And until next time, True Seeker.